Okay, folks, for today's short training, we're going to be doing dashboarding and Netography. This is the Netography portal. When you log in, this is what you're going to see, and this is the home page. Before I get into that, let's just do a quick review. What Netography is doing, you folks, I believe you should already know, is we're ingesting NetFlow from your environment, whether it's from on-prem devices, from one of the 5 cloud providers, it doesn't matter. Whether you're exporting on-prem from firewalls, routers, switches, it doesn't matter. Netography can ingest all this flow data. And what is a flow, right? So, if you get the real basics, it's really simple. A flow is a unidirectional stream of packets with some similar characteristics. A flow is going to arrive at the router on the same subinterface. It's going to have the same source and destination IP address. It's going to have the same layer 4 protocol, so TCP or UDP, and it's going to have the same TOS type of service and the IP headers. And that's it. So we call it the 5 tuples, right? The source and destination IP address, the source and destination port, the timestamp, the TOS, and the protocol. What Netography is doing, though, is we're actually taking all of this and then we're adding about 100 different metrics to each flow. So we're taking that flow record and we're contextually enriching that. And then we're also doing that with tools you may have in your enterprise. So let's say, for example, your EDR is CrowdStrike or one of your cloud providers AWS. We have built-in integrations that will actually take that IP information, import it into the Netography portal, and that way, when we're researching IP addresses in your environment, they're going to have all that contextual information. So instead of having to do a swivel chair and look at something else or look up an IP, or most people don't have all IP addresses memorized environment, you're going to have an idea of what that IP does. So when you're going through these dashboards, you're going through detections, or you're looking at, network operations specific dashboard, you're going to have the ability to see what each IP address is, what it does, what function it may be, and it's going to actually help you troubleshooting go a lot faster. The idea with Netography is that we're very scalable and we're going to give visibility that you don't have today. And all the nooks and crannies of your enterprise on-prem and your cloud providers, in different remote branches, whatever the case may be. You can't have security level visibility, and that's what we're doing here. Part of the platform is dashboarding. So when you take a look, I logged on. This is the Netography portal. You'll see your name, you'll see whatever company you're from. This is actually a demo environment. So in Suncoast is one of our demo environments. This is going to be the menu on the left side. The one we're going to really worry about today will be dashboarding. That's all we're focused on today. 2 things to show you, though, that are important and very relevant are this is the global NQL filter. This is where you're going to put what you want to see through any dashboard event or whatever the case may be. NQL is an Netography query language. It's like a visual query language. It's very simple. Like if I want to put an IP address and research an IP address, I will type an IP and there you go. Equals, doesn't equal, and then put an IP address. So if you're not sure what you're looking at, if you want to see, an internal IP address, what does that look like? Type internal. Oh, there we go. There's source. So it's very easy to use and it's very quick to figure out. Without even knowing NQL or using it, you're still going to get a lot of use out of this tool. And we're going to show that today in dashboards. So that's the global filter. And then we have the global time selector. The global time selector in Netography is we are by default always looking at the last 4 hours. That's the default time range in Netography. Now, the ability to ingest all this flow gives us some advantages. One of those is historical look back. So I have the ability to do a custom range. Let's say we had a SQL issue on Saturday and I come in on Monday and they want me to do a little forensics on it, right? A little post-mortem. No problem. I'd come in here, I could pick the Saturday date range, and then I could look at my favorite dashboards. I could look at events. I could look at whatever I have that's particular to that instance at that time frame. So this historical look back is something that's very popular and very necessary in troubleshooting. And it comes very handy when you're looking at events and you're trying to figure out what happened that time period. You're able to take a look at the traffic coming in your environment that specific time frame. For today's purpose and demo on dashboards, we're going to stay within the desired default time range of 4 hours. Dashboard I selected today for us to kind of dice up and go through and demonstrate is called north-south traffic. So right here, you see this is demonstrating total north-south traffic overview. So I'm going to click that, and it's going to bring up a very nice laid out dashboard. I picked this because it's symmetrically look, it's easy to the eyes, but it's also, it demonstrates the power in Netography It starts at something here, and we'll explain. I'm gonna go step by step, but we get that nice overview, that 30,000 foot overview, and then we actually get more granular as we work our way down. So we're focused on right here within this dashboard, and these widgets are inbound traffic from the internet, as you can see, and then outbound. Before I get started, though, let's look at some of the settings and aesthetics of a dashboard. By default, all dashboards are locked. You can see this lock button. That means that if I come over here, there's no menu. I don't have any ability to edit any of these widgets. Therefore, you can't make any mistakes to a dashboard or any accidental deletions or whatever the case may be. Sync over, what does that mean? Well, you notice when I put my mouse right here, you see any possible line graphs pop up on other widgets. If I shut that off, you'll notice it's only going to pop on the one that I actually show and I actually am looking at. Turn it back on. I have that ability on all of them. This is going to be the schedule button. So I have the ability to email myself these dashboards on a regular interval. This is going to be the generate shareable link. So if I want to send this to someone and look at this dashboard, as long as they have permissions and an account within Netography, they'll be able to view it. And then this is going to be print. This gives me the ability to put this dashboard to a PDF and either email it, use it for my own, troubleshooting or whatever the case may be. Today, though, we're going to focus on unlocking these. And notice it automatically puts add a widget, so I can add another one of these, or more importantly, gives me settings. This is settings for the whole dashboard. Now notice under widgets, we have a whole selection of options. I have the settings, which is what we're going to mainly be in today. I have the copy, and I have the actual delete. And these are going to be the ones we're going to focus on today the most. First, settings for the whole dashboard. If I pop this up, it's a simple little menu, and what it does, it gives me ability to name the dashboard, to give a description of it. And if collection, all that means it's groups. So the folder groups that I might contain this particular dashboard in. Here I have one called NetOps. I have it with other network operation dashboards. Date and time. This means I'm either inheriting from the global filter, or I can actually make it custom and have it specific so it overrides the global filter. I would recommend leaving this on inherit unless you're working on specific trouble, you're going over a specific event, you have a dashboard that is, collaborative right to that specific event. That way, you won't be in a dashboard, get confused because the data doesn't look right because you have the inherit turned off. NQL mode, we're going to leave it on global. What that means is that whatever's in this global filter, like I talked about earlier, that is going to filter down to dashboard. So whatever you put in here will affect every single widget on this dashboard unless you hit override. Public visibility, excuse me. This dashboard is public. Anybody can look at it. If I uncheck it, that means just I can look at it. We talked about homepage earlier, the default homepage. If you would like your own default homepage, you don't like what the company picked for you, you have one that you look at every day. It's how you do your job. It's the first thing you want to see. It's the first metrics you want to see in the morning to make sure everything's all right. You could just say, set as your homepage. And you can add it to your favorites. I'm going to cancel out of here, and we're going to start to begin. So within here, I've clicked unlock. Now I have the settings menu available for the overall dashboard and for every widget. So we're going to start at the top. So when you create a dashboard, there's two essential questions to ask yourself. What do I want to see? So when we made this dashboard, my peers and I, we said, what do we want to see? Well, we want to see north-south traffic. We want an overview of north-south traffic. Okay. That's what we want to see. How do we want to see it? Well, one of us said, listen, what'd be nice is if we got an overall representation of all the traffic coming in and out of the internet. Okay, no problem. And then someone else said, okay, then let's get granular and break it down further, and let's show the countries that are coming in and out of the environment. And then someone else said, okay, let's show the IP so we can do some IP research. It's great, no problem. And then someone else even said, let's show ports. So this dashboard is a great representation of the scalability and the ability of Netography. We have the ability to show you a nice, like 30,000 foot overview. Then we can break it down and get more granular into specifics like countries, IPs, and actual ports coming in from the internet and out to the internet. Now we have the ability to go a lot deeper than this. We can show Sankey charts showing individual conversations. So conversations from, an IP in China to an IP in your environment or vice versa, whatever the case may be. But for today's purposes and just to demonstrate this, we're going to show a nice little overview. Hey, listen, give me an overview of what's going on in my environment, and then let's break it down a little bit. So just by looking at this dashboard, you have the ability to say, okay, I have this much coming into the internet from the internet. I have this much going out to the internet. How does this help you? Well, right here, it's just a nice even line graph, right? So a nice area chart. So you could actually, you're going to see if there's any spikes or dips, they're going to be obvious to your eyes right off the bat. You could take your mouse, you can move over, focus on it, and you can start troubleshooting. So with one click, just by looking at a live graph, you have the ability to hone in on an issue that might not be represented in other tools at that time. Then I'm taking this data and we're saying, you know what, we want to see in one number also. We'd like to see a number that shows us for this global time, so the 4 hours we're looking at, or any time period we put in here, give me a number that tells me a total number of traffic. I see this. I see this minute by minute representation. You can tell we're looking at bit rate because we're telling you right there. But I'd like to also see it a sum of that bit rate. And there it is right here. Okay. How do we create these? First thing we did was I come in here, I go to settings, just like I did for the dashboard. Now I'm in settings of widget. I said, okay, let me name it. So I name it. Widget type. This is important. There are a lot of different widget types. You have the ability to pick from a single digit, which we're going to get into, to a stack bar chart, pie chart, heat map, flow map. It does matter. Custom table to area chart. The default is area chart. This came up and I said, okay, this looks pretty good. What do I want to see? Well, I want to look at the bit rate. So why do I have inherit here? Well, I told you the global selector is what governs everything. The default metric is bit rate. If I send here, you know what? I actually want to see flow rate. I could select that. Or I could select bit rate. You notice it won't change at all because that's the default metric. Okay, so I'm leaving inherit. What do I want to see? The aggregate. I could say, do I want to see the top 1, 5, 10, 25, 50? Well, you know what? For now, let's look at an aggregate. That way I can see a nice line graph of everything going across, right? This area chart will represent the actual data coming inbound from the internet minute by minute. Now, this is the important part. What have we got here? So I've said on this graph, on this widget, that I want to see all the traffic coming from the inbound. That means all traffic sourced from outside my environment, so from public IP addresses, none of my internal RFC 1918. To ensure that's exactly what I get to view, no problem. I say source internal, so source IPs inside my environment, so my RFC19 addresses equal false. That way, I know this data is good. The integrity of this is valid because by putting this little line in here in NQL, I'm ensuring that all the traffic I'm seeing is traffic coming from public IP addresses. Then I will hit save. Here I'm going to hit cancel because we already created it. And this is what you're going to get. If you hold over, you can see a minute by minute of gigabytes, terabytes. I hope it's not petabytes, megabytes. It doesn't matter of what's coming in. Then we said, okay, let's take this and let's give a one sum number. If you notice, if I take a look, it's going to look a lot very similar with one exception. Instead of area chart, you said you want to see, we decided we want to see, you know what, give us one number. I want to see the total number of all the traffic coming in. So I went through and I looked through and we said, oh, we can do that. We have a single value. And that's what's represented here. Again, the exact same parameters, inherit, because it's bit rate, want to look at aggregate and source internal. So all the IP addresses from internal environment equals false. That way, we know this number is representing only the public IP addresses coming into my environment. I'm going to click cancel instead of save, and that's what's represented here. So now you have two widgets showing the same thing basically, but just in different formats, right? You have one showing a minute by minute area chart of all the data coming in the internet. So this way I get a nice representation. Again, I see spikes or dips. I know I have an issue. This is what I expect in my environment. Looks very consistent. I see any changes, I'm going to investigate. Then I took all this data and I represented a sum. Now I'm like, you know what? That's great. This is all inbound from the internet, but I want to see outbound too. Okay, no problem. Well, I could recreate the wheel, so to speak, what I just did, or I could say, you know what? I remember when I saw the demo on this, we can copy this. So I would hit copy, let's give a second, copy widget, and I'll make a widget, and then I'll come in here. And the only things I had to change in here were a couple of variables. So if you take a look, I changed the name. So it went from outbound traffic or inbound traffic to outbound. I left it inherit. I wanted to mimic the other one with the exception of I want all the traffic coming from my environment going out to the public IP space. So the only thing came in here, area chart, we left it, inherit, aggregate. Notice this. Previously, we had said, you know what? Source internal equals false because we were looking at inbound traffic from the internet. So that inbound traffic sourced from public IP addresses. Now we're saying I want to see outbound traffic from the internet. So all the sourced traffic is going to be coming from my RFC 1918 addresses. So in this case, I put destination IP address internal equals false because I want this to be accurate. In order for this to be accurate, I need all of the outbound traffic to the internet to be represented with public IP addresses from the internet. I would hit save, and then away we go. Same thing with the single digit. I copy the widget over right here. Come over here, I take a look, and again, the only thing I'm changing, destination internal equals false. So you notice that these widgets for internal and external, for outbound, inbound, these two are the same, these two are the same. The only thing that changed was we are looking at a single value versus an area chart. That is the only difference in these. So I'm able to get a nice representation of all the traffic coming in and all the traffic going out represented in a nice area chart and a single digit with a couple of simple widgets. Now I say, okay, I got a nice broad picture of what's going on in the internet and to the internet. Now let's break it down a little bit. I want to see countries. I want to see where all this traffic's coming from, and I want to see where it's going to. I don't care about US, so I want everything non-US. So let's take a look what that looks like. So as I go through this widget, pull it up, I give it a name. So inbound traffic from the internet. Okay, no problem. How do I want to look at it? Well, like I said, you can go in and play with these charts. Like, I tried an area chart. What does that look like? That's probably going to be a little messy. Yeah, that looks a little messy. Okay. I said, what about bar chart? Those are usually pretty consistent. Not bad. I can see it. So I go through it. I didn't even know what a stack bar chart was the first time I saw it. I tried it and I'm like, I like how it stacks the values on one another. It gives me a nice, neat view. No problem. Now I'm looking at a stack bar chart. How do I represent inbound traffic from the internet? So all the countries coming into my environment. Okay. Well, I'm going to inherit also because we're going to look at this bit rate. We don't mind this metric. We're going to use this as a default metric for the whole dashboard. Now I decide I want to see the top 25, the top 25 countries coming into my environment. Fields, what does this mean? Now that I've picked top 25, I have to select a field that I want to focus on. Well, what I want to see here is countries. So I do source geocode.country code. And what that's saying is, hey, listen, the field that I want represented on my stack bar chart is the country code for every country coming inbound to my environment from the internet. And that's exactly what it's doing. Now, what does that look like in NQ? That's the field I want to see. Now, how do I ensure that this is accurate and I'm not seeing anything but inbound traffic from the internet? Well, I'm going to do a quick NQL query. If you notice here, what we've done is source internal, right? So source IP address is going to be false because we're looking at inbound. So we want to see all the source traffic from outside our environment and outside the US. How do we represent that in NQL? Well, it's pretty simple, right? We do source internal equals false. So now we know we're only going to see public IP addresses. And we do source geo.country code doesn't equal a null value. So you see the parentheses that are nothing in between. And source geo.country code doesn't equal US. So what I've done here in 3 little pieces of code in NQL, I've said, don't show me any internal IP addresses because I'm looking at traffic coming from public IP addresses on the non-US internet. I don't want any null values. I actually want to see a country code, and I don't want to see any US country codes. So by that, I've ensured that the integrity of this data is going to be correct. I'm going to see exactly what I'm going to see. Again, I could recreate the wheel and just create this, or again, I hit copy. I come over here, and what changes over here? Remember, you're just doing the exact opposite. I was just looking at inbound traffic from the internet. Now I'm looking at outbound traffic to the internet. I changed the title a little bit. Still going to use stack bar chart. That's already there. Inherit's already going to be there, top 25. Now, what field do I want to see? Well, I'm seeing outbound traffic to the internet. Well, I want to see the country it's going to. So instead of source geocode, because this traffic is in source from the internet, it's source from my environment, I will put destination geo.country code. And what that's going to give me is the country code where all my internal traffic is going to the internet. And you can see the number one here. You can see China and a few other ones you're going to recognize. What does that look like in NQL? It looks exactly like it looked like on the other one, except instead of source, everything's going to be destination. Why? Because we're looking at outbound traffic to the internet. So the destination is the internet. So destination internal equals false. Now I want to add a couple things to clean up my chart and what I actually get to see. Destination geo.country code doesn't equal null. That way I will get no null values. And destination geo.country code doesn't equal US. I get no US. So now what I'm ensured is that I'm only going to see internet countries that are sourced from my environment. So I know that the integrity of this is good. That's going to be much the same. So overview here, then we said, let's break it down a little further and look at country code. Now, somebody else said, well, listen, I need to see IPs because I'm going to do my, my virus total, my validin, my whatever the case, my IP reputation. I'm going to do it by IP address. Okay. Well, we might have been able to put that in the same widget, but that's going to look a little messy. So we're basically going to look at the same, we're doing the same thing here. We're just changing the metrics we want to see. And you'll see when I click in here. When I come in here, you see, okay, a lot of the same things. Now, again, this is a line chart. You notice this is a line chart versus this is stack bar chart versus this is going to be a bar, right? A bar graph. So we're just changing the look. You can do them all the same. Like I said, is the beauty of this is you are in a preview. This is a widget preview. I have the ability to go, okay, what does that look like stacked? It's going to look exactly the same what we just saw, right? Okay. Yeah, but you know what? I kind of like the line chart, right? That didn't look too bad. Let's take a look at that. Whatever you want to see, it doesn't matter. I'm going to inherit the default metric because I said the whole dashboard is going to be bit rate. That way I'm very consistent. I want to look at the top 25. Now I'm looking at inbound traffic from the internet. Inbound means that the source is going to be a public IP address from the internet. So I want to see source IP. But remember the last widget we had source geo.country code because we want to see the country it was coming from. Now I want to see the IP it's coming from because I want to do my troubleshooting that way. Okay, no problem. What's the NQL look like? It's going to look very, very familiar. And you're going to see patterns over here. When you figure out the what you want to see, that's the dashboard. Then how do you want to see it? That's going to be each of these individual widgets. There's going to be a lot of similar patterns. So you'll be able to build these widgets as time goes on really quick because there's going to be a lot of similarities in the data that you want to see for whatever particular subject is on that dashboard. Another dashboard I have is just east-west. So there's going to be a lot of similar patterns in those widgets. So when I take a look here, I'm looking at inbound traffic from the internet. So it's sourced from the internet. So I'm saying, well, source internal is false. I want to make sure that this is representing all the correct data that I want to see, which is traffic just coming from the internet. I don't want it coming from my environment. So I'm telling it, don't come from my environment. And just like we did before, I'm getting rid of all null values and all US values. I would hit save, in this case, cancel, sorry, built, and I would move on. Now, again, I'd say, you know what? I've already built this. Let me just copy this and make life a lot easier. I look at settings. What's the only thing? Now we're starting to see a pattern. The only thing I changed is two things. Here, the last one was inbound traffic from the internet. So we were looking at source IP because all the internet traffic was sourced, or all the traffic was sourced from the internet. Now the traffic is sourced from my environment because I want to see what's going to the internet. So I say, well, show me the destination IP. I don't care about my internal IPs. I want to see the internet IP that all this traffic is going to. And then the NQL code, again, you would see a lot of the same things. Instead of SRC internal, it's going to be DST. I'm saying destination internal is false because the destination address is going to be a public IP address from the internet, not an internal address from my environment. And again, don't show me null values and don't show me any US values. And it's going to be the same thing for ports. So you're able to see what we're able to do here. We're able to say, what do we want to see for 2 questions to build dashboard? Remember, what do I want to see? How do I want to see it? Well, what I want to see is traffic coming in on my environment. No problem. I like to see a total of it in case I want to do some troubleshooting. Even though it's a small little widget represented by just a line, a nice easy area chart, simple lines, minute by minute, I could actually see any spikes out of my environment, any dips, any outages, very powerful. And then from there, I could actually select it like that. And you'll see it's going to show just that time frame and say, let me go investigate from here. That's another class, but you could start your troubleshooting right from there. Then I said, you know what, represent that one number because I want to see the total for whatever my time frame is. Remember, default time frame is 4 hours. One thing I do notice is that, hey, listen, I'm taking a lot more traffic from the internet than that's actually going out, right? I mean, that's not even close. And then from there, I said, okay, great. I have a nice 30,000 foot overview. I know what's coming in, what's going out at what rate, bit rate in this case. But you know what? I want to see the countries I'm coming in from and I'm going to. So I was able to build those like we just looked at. IP, I want to see IP addresses. I want to see ports. So if you actually take a look at this, we're running up on time, but what this looks like if you're actually going to build it, here's one of the beautiful things of this. You can find dashboards on your system and say, you know what, I like that. I'm going to copy that. And then I'm going to start taking away, like if I said, you know what, I liked it. I remember him showing me his dashboard. I could copy it, change the name, and then I could start deleting widgets, adding widgets, but I could keep what I liked, remove what I don't like. And that way, if I had no idea, if I felt lost in how to start a dashboard, I could begin like that. I'd already have a foundation. If you want to create a new one, I mean, you can do either way, right? If you want to create a new one, you just say add dashboard. Say you want to see north, south traffic, right? And that's ability. Then I'm gonna say, you know what? Don't make it public. I just want to check it right now. I'm gonna leave everything default. Notice this puts me right into my new dashboard. And we'll just do a widget to just kind of give you an idea from scratch. Remember, it's locked by default. So I have a dashboard that's empty and I can't do anything with it. Well, I unlock it. Now I can add a widget. And you can say, well, remember, we want to see total traffic, right? So inbound traffic from internet. Okay. How do we do that? Remember, we picked default area chart because we kind of like that view. We inherited the metric. You know what? I don't want to do that though. I want to do flows per second. I want to see what my flow rate is. And notice it changed over here. It went from bit rate, see flow rate, FPS is. Now you're looking at the actual average of flows per second. I'm going to keep it aggregate because look what happens. If I put 10, notice there's a red field. Because I put 10, I say, I want to see the top 10. It's like, okay, well, the top 10 of what? What do you want to see the top 10 of? I didn't put a field in here. Remember, for the country, we put in the source.geo.country code. And for the IP, we put in source IP. Well, I'd have to put something in here. But I don't want to. I want to see a nice area chart representing minute by minute what's coming in from the internet in my environment. And then on here, I'm looking at inbound traffic. See if you remember, right? I'm looking at inbound traffic from the internet. So that means source traffic is sourced from public IP and not my internal IP address space. So I'd say source internal, remember, equals false. And now I have a nice area chart that's going to show me flow rate. It's going to aggregate it all for me because that's how I want to see it. And then I'm going to ensure that the integrity of this is good by making sure that this is inbound traffic from the internet. So I want all traffic sourced from non-RFC 1918 addresses that are outside my environment on public internet. And this is how I'm going to do it, ensure that this is all correct. I hit save, and then it's here. Now notice, remember, we want to reinvent the wheel. So remember how I copied it? No problem. I'm going to copy it. I'm going to say, you know what? I want to see the exact same thing, but I want to see outbound. So I would say outbound traffic to internet. And what am I changing in here? This is all I'm going to change in here, right? Outbound traffic to the internet. So I'm saying, hey, listen, all the destination is going to be public IP space in the internet. Nothing from my internal environment. No RFC 1918, no public spaces I may own. So I'm just going to change this and say destination internal equals false, because that's how I'm going to ensure that the integrity of this data is correct. I don't want to see, don't worry about these errors, because when I put in a value and I change one, until you have your code correct, it's going to pop and say, hey, listen, this is incomplete. So it's actually telling you what you did wrong along the way. I'm saying destination internal is false. That means all destination traffic is going to be a public IP from the internet. And I will hit save. And there we go. So and then we can keep on going. It'll be the same thing, where I want to add widgets where, we did by IP, by country, right? So by country, remember we did the stack bar chart. I like looking at that way. I want to do flows. I don't want to do inherit bit rate. And let's say I want to do the top 10. And remember, so I'm saying by country, right? So I want to see inbound. So I would say source geo dot country code. And that's the field I want to see. And see how it automatically pops it up? I just popped up top 10. I could have popped, top 25. And now for further integrity, I want to ensure that I'm saying, inbound traffic to my environment. So that means a source on the internet. So the first thing I want to do is make sure the source internal equals false, right? I don't want that. And then I'm saying, source geo country code doesn't equal. Remember, we had this. And then we want to make sure it's non-US, right? So source geo country code doesn't equal US. And there we go. So now we have a stacked bar chart showing the top 10 countries inbound from the internet. And how do I ensure it's inbound? And the source IPs were all countries. Well, I told it down here. First, give me source country code. That's the field I want to see. Then I said source internal is false. That way, it's not going to mess up and show me any RFC 19 addresses from my environment. I hit save, and then I could just keep going on and on. I could copy this over. I can make single digit. I could say, you know what, I want to do something else. Give me a brand new widget. I might want to look at, conversations, right? So I would say, give me, how can I look at, well, let's look at internet, right? And then let's say, I want to look at top 10 and fields. I want to say, source IP to destination IP, right? Bit rate, and then NQL. What am I going to look at? And you can see here is, source IP versus destination IP. This is a demo system, so our data is kind of limited, but you get the idea of what you can play with. And again, you're looking at a preview. So this is a live run book of you playing with data in your environment, live data, and you're kind of making up as you go, but you don't have to save yet. You know exactly what it's going to look like before you save it. So make sure it's exactly what you want. Make sure you have your NQL, right? I want to look at, source internal equals, true, whatever the case may be. All right. So now I know I'm looking at that. Okay. So you have the ability to build this. This is kind of your building block, and then actually see your results, your canvas. So think you're painting it right here, and then you're actually seeing the results of the canvas right here. And then I would save and kind of be on my way. So that's going to conclude today's demo. But remember, when you're building dashboards in Netography, with the amount of visibility we give you with NetFlow, is you have the ability to see your environment from all kinds of different perspectives. So when you're building a dashboard, it's two simple questions, and that's going to help you. What do I want to see? Well, I want to see north-south traffic. How do I want to see it? Well, I want to see what's coming in and out, and then I want to start breaking it down. We do country IP and so forth. Conversations, if you're looking at, regular NetFlow, it doesn't matter. Whatever the what and the how is that you want to see, you can build a dashboard around that. And with that, I'm actually going to stop the recording. I'm going to thank you for your time.